Thank you, everybody, for waiting. So I'm terrible at this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm Krippy. David and I are from Tatwa, which is a mental health and emotional wellness organization based in Goa. And we started the South Asian Existential Therapy Alliance last year, which is basically a simple way of saying that we attempted to bring existential concepts and existential therapy to basically this part of the world. And we requested Yaqui to come from all the way from Mexico, it's his first time in India, to help us further this. And that would mean that he came all the way to be holding this workshop that we'll be doing for the next 3 days, where he will be taking us through the foundations of existential concepts. And whilst he will be talking about existential therapy, we will be mainly focusing on how the existential thought is very, very instrumental to how we live our lives, how it helps us connect with our meaning and purpose. So Yaqui is many, many things. I mean, when I was reading up on him, the amount of background that he has in terms of what he's studied and where he comes from is massive. But I would leave the traditional introduction to him, but he is an existential, phenomenological, hermeneutic and gestalt therapist and analyst. And he is the secretary for the Latinoamericana Association of Existential Therapy. And he is the founder and representative of the Mexican School of Existential Therapy. He has co-authored many, many books. And 16 years ago, he did in Mexico what we're attempting to do here, which is start the movement of existential work in India and South Asia. So we're just really, really happy that he has come. And I'm going to give the floor to Yaqui now.
Thank you. Well, good night, and thank you for being here. Thank you for coming. First of all, I want to say that I'm going to support myself in my notes, because even also I talk about these issues almost daily. This is the second time in my life I'm going to do it in English. Then 50% of my brain is going to be very busy about the English stuff, and that part of my brain is going to need my notes. Please, sorry about it. And at the same time, well, I know my English is not perfect. Then if I am not clear enough for you, please make a sign with your hand or something, and I will try to repeat it or try to make myself more clear or whatever. Well, yes, my name is Yaqui. I have planned to talk to you about some things, about some aspect of the existential point of view, the existential perspective that I think could be valuable for you. But if during my talking you need to say something or to have you have a question or something like that, please interrupt me in any moment. Oh, I need to say something else. I use frames without glasses. And I know now that I need to say this at the beginning, because if I don't do it, sometimes the people get very distracted trying to find is the glasses are there or not, what? And sometimes the people ask me, oh, how do you keep your glasses so clean, you know? And when they talk to me about this, I say, well, it's a magical liquid that I use. And I say, I do this. And they say, wow, it's very magical, the liquid. Well, I use the frames without glasses because I love frames. I think my face looks better with them than I use it every time I work. It's like, yeah. Actually, you know, I have a collection because I have green, black, yellow, gray, blue, rounded, more square, more bigger, more smaller. It's like some people use earrings, I use frames. I expect don't distract you very much. Well, thanks, Pippi, and where's David? David, for the invitation to share a little bit with you about some topics that I feel very passionate about it. I feel very passionate to have any opportunity to share a little bit about these concepts, a little about this way of thinking. Let me start telling you a story. Around 5 or 6 years ago, a student of mine asked me about the possibility of offer an interview about the existential phenomenological worldview for her work. She works in a very, very popular magazine in Mexico. And she asked me for an interview for the magazine. And she introduced to me the magazine in this way. She said, well, this magazine is mainly designed for women between 25 and 50 years old. I said, okay. I said, but these women are not interested in fashion or in the TV and Hollywood gossip and all that stuff. These kind of women are women who are very interested in their own growth, are women who want to become better women, better wives, better professionals, better mothers, women who want to grow in their consciousness, that kind of women. And I thought, well, it's a very interesting audience. Yes, I agree with the interview. 1 week later, a couple of women came to my office for the interview, and they start the interview ask me 3 favors. They say, we're going to ask you just for 3 favors before we start. Okay, tell me. First one, please don't use the word existential. I say, but why? They say, because existential, the word existential very often is linked with other words like crisis, like anxiety, like troubles, and we don't want to scare the readers. Then please don't use the word existential. And I say, okay, I'll try. Second favor, please don't say the word therapy. I say, come on, why? Because we want to keep the interview in a more human way, in a more heart-to-heart, in a more person-to-person. And if you say therapy, it could feel like a very clinical interview, like a very theoretical way. We don't want that. Please don't say that word. Okay, I will try. Which one is the third one? They say, okay, please don't use the word phenomenology, phenomenological, or any technical word, because we don't want that our readers feel strange about the interview. We want the readers can feel very, what's the word? Very identified with the reading. Then please don't use technical words. And I say, okay, but you are keeping away from me 3 words that I use very often, that I use all the time when I try to explain these topics. But it seems to me like a challenge, and I like challenges. Then I say, okay, let's do it. During the conversation, expression came to our talk, our dialogue, and after that, I'm aware of the potential of this kind of expression. That now
we in Mexico use very much, we use a lot this expression. The expression is powerful conversations. Then we say that we want to have powerful conversations. But those kind of conversations, powerful conversations, it's a name that we can use for existential phenomenological practices, you know. Then the technical name is existential phenomenological practices, existential phenomenological point of view. But in a more common way, we can say powerful conversations, because actually it's very the same, as we can see. This kind of existential phenomenological practices or powerful conversations can take place in 5 different contexts in 3 different relationships. For instance, we can have powerful conversations in our relationship with the world, with objects like this, with nature, with concepts, with theories, with thoughts, even with transcendental kind of thoughts like God or Dharma or energy. All of this we can say is the relationship with the world. But we can use powerful conversation as well in our relationship with others. Others, of course, like you and me, people, but as well as animals. Not those animals like just cats or dogs. No, those animals or these animals like Scooby-Doo, Snoopy, or Silent. How is the name of your dog? Silent. You know, these animals that are actually part of our family. Have you had animals that are part of your families? Yes? My wife and I have 2 cats, and she say the kids. You know, she called them. How are the kids? You know, and they are 2 cats because they are part of our family. Then the relationship with others include animals that are part of our families. This is the second kind of relationship. Then the first one is our relationship with the world, and the second one is our relationship with others. And the third one is the relationship with ourselves, because human beings have this wonderful capacity to have a relationship with ourselves. We have like if we have 2 lives, 2 different lives. One life, the life that we live every day, and the other one is the life where we can thought about the first one, where we can reflect, where we can imagine, have beliefs about our first life. Do you know this poet, this Portuguese poet called Fernando Pessoa? Yeah. It has a very beautiful poem that I would like to read it for you. Just give me a moment, please. Okay, this poem is in Portuguese, and you know, to translate poems is like kill the poem, you know? But we're going to do it because it's very interesting, this poet. The name of the poet is I Have So Much Feeling, and it says, I have so much feeling, which is often persuade me that I am sentimental. But I admit, when measuring me, this is all thought, I did not feel at all. We have all that we live, a life that is lived, and another life that is thought. And the only life we have, it is this which is divided between the truth and the true and the wrong. What is, however, true and what is wrong? No one in the know is plain. And so we live that the life that we have is that have to think. Well, it's a beautiful poem, I think, from Pessoa, that says that human beings have these two levels in life. One, the life that we live at every moment, and the other one, when we thought about our own life. Then human beings can have a relationship with ourselves, with themselves. And this is the third kind of relationship. In these three kinds of relationships, we can have powerful conversations. Powerful conversations that we can explain in 5 different contexts. Let me talk to you about a little bit about this. The first context is the ordinary life, the everyday life, because we can have powerful conversation with our families, with our friends, with our co-workers, with our neighborhoods. We can have powerful conversation with all those people that we met every day, that we have encounters in our ordinary life. This is the first context. The second one, we call it coaching. I don't know how it's here in India, but in some countries, coaching is an activity that is getting growth in a very faster speed. How is here? Do you have coaching? Yeah? Well, I don't know here, but in Mexico and in other countries, they are groups very controversial about coaching as well, because sometimes they are people without any kind of ethics or without any very professional preparation. They are like a improvisational way of working, but at the same time, they are very, very good coaches that work with a very professional feeling, with a very ethical way. Does it happen here in India as well?
Yeah, both.
Yeah, both. Mm-hmm. Well, but coaching is another context where powerful conversation can take place. The third context is therapy. And by therapy, I want to speak about this particular relationship when a person asks to another person for help to meet mainly weekly, in a weekly basis, for have conversations about how does it mean to exist, how is our existence, how does it mean to be human. Then that's it for this moment, therapy. And therapy is the third context where powerful conversation can take place. Then we have now three different contexts. The day-by-day context, the ordinary life, coaching, and therapy. The fourth kind of context, in Mexico we call it Socrates Café. It's like philosophical groups. There are groups like join to talk about one topic. For instance, the groups can talk about love, or money, or what is truth, or sadness, or happiness. And the group meet sometimes. In Mexico, it's very useful that they meet in coffee shops. That's why the name Socrates Café. You know, Socrates, like the ancient Greek philosopher. Exactly. For a lot of people, Socrates is the father of the Western philosophy, because he starts to make questions and he invites people to question themselves and to make a lot of questions. That's why a lot of people think
Socrates is the father of Western philosophy?
Well, in Socrates Cafe, the goal is to try to avoid the conclusions, try to avoid to jump into conclusions. It's like try to keep the questions above the answers. And if we have some answers, we try to make new questions because we try to keep the conversation alive, you know. And sometimes the answers kill the conversation because we just know what is it and that's all. But in Socrates Cafe, we try to keep the conversation alive. Then we try to keep questioning and questioning and questioning. If someone who come to a Socrates Cafe arrive with one idea about anything and leave Socrates Cafe in this way, thinking like, well, I arrived with some idea, but now I'm not sure. Now I don't know exactly what is happening because I feel a little bit confused. That was a very good Socrates Cafe, you know, because we try to move our way of thinking. We try to rethink, to think again. And if we think again, everything that we think before, sometimes it feels like a confusion. But in this way, confusion is not a bad thing. It could be a very good thing because it invites us to think again. That's the fourth context, the philosophical groups. And the fifth one, the last one, is research. Because we can have powerful conversation when we research about anything, like a scientist, you know, because actually the existential phenomenological practices starts as a scientific method, as a way to approach reality, as a way to try to know the reality in the more close way, in a more intimate way. Then the fifth of this context is research. Then we have three different relationships with the world, with others, and with ourselves, and five contexts: ordinary life, coaching, therapy, philosophical groups, and research. Until this, any doubts, any comments? We are good?
Yeah.
Great. But what is this? What is a powerful conversation? How can we recognize it? How can we create it? How can we promote it? How is a existential phenomenological practice? Well, if we think in a very wide open way about this, we can say that existential phenomenological practices or powerful conversation are an invitation. An invitation to some things like, well, first, it's an invitation to be involved by the conversation. For instance, if we want to have a powerful conversation now, we need to be really involved in the conversation. We need to be really there, really here. Not having a conversation with one person and at the same time talking by WhatsApp with another one, or having a conversation with a person and at the same time thinking in a different thing. It's an invitation to be really, really there, with full attention, without sending WhatsApps to anybody else. And you know, I am from a past generation, and I used to think that in order to have a powerful conversation, we need to be person to person, face to face. But my wife teaching me different things. She teach me that
it can be possible to do it in an electronic way, like by chat, like Facebook or WhatsApp or email or other electronic media. At the beginning, I don't believe it. I say, no, you need to be face to face. But now I realize she is right. Actually, it is possible to have powerful conversation by electronic media. But you need to be really involved in the conversation, really there. If we are talking, if you are talking to someone else by chat, you need to be at that chat, really present, and not with 7 or 10 chats at the same time with different people. Then this is the first invitation, to be really there, involved in the conversation. A second invitation. A powerful conversation invites us to make some pauses. This is interesting because the world today is become like faster and faster. It's like everything becomes quickly. It's like we are in a variety or more and more faster things. Like if we were in these movies, Faster and Furious, like we want everything faster. In Mexico, for instance, now we have an explosion of fast food restaurants. Almost in every corner, in every mall, just around every street, you found a fast food restaurant, because people doesn't have time anymore to sit and have a good meal, you just to sit and enjoy food. No, you need to take your meals very quickly because you have to return to work and so on and so on. But this is a tendency in all the world. I think could be in India as well, right? That it's more and more have a situation that that had to happen in a very faster way. We want faster food, faster work, faster services, faster love. And we have a lot of applications in phones that found love in a faster way. This is like a crazy thing. Well, powerful conversations are invitations to make pauses, to slow down the rhythm, to first for reflection about the topics that we are talking about in the first place. But second, to put more attention on our feelings, our thoughts, our whatever experience emerge in the moment that we are talking, that we are in dialogue. Then it's an invitation to make pause, to be more aware, to have more conscious about our own state of mind, our own feelings, our own body. This is the second invitation. In some way, it's an invitation to silence. It's an invitation to be more open to experience. The third invitation is an invitation to be open for aesthetics. I would like to say this in two different meanings, but let me have a taste of this. It's good. Well, aesthetics have two different meanings. The first one is aesthetic is like the experience of beauty. In the ordinary world now is one of the main meanings of the word aesthetics. It's everything that has to be with the experience of beauty, of beautiful. But actually, yes, powerful conversations can be really beautiful.
Maybe you have this conversation sometimes, you know, this kind of conversation that we say after that, oh, how can we record our conversation, because it was a really, really great conversation that we just had. If we just have a recorder, because it could be great to have this recording, you know, of our conversation. Some powerful conversations looks like a conversation that we can find in TV series, in movies, or in poetry, or in very good books, because some conversations are really beautiful, are very hurt feelings, are very emotional. But that is just the first meaning of the word aesthetics. It has actually a more ancient meaning. The word aesthetics came from the Greek stetos, that means with our sense awake. That's what the word aesthetic means originally, with our sense awake. That's why this other word, anesthetic, you know, like anesthesia, came from the same root. And have you been in some experience that you need to be in anesthesia for a dentist or something like that? When we are under anesthesia effects, our senses aren't awake, you know, are sleeping. Then aesthetics is the opposite, because anesthesia, this an is deny of the senses. Then aesthetics then is our senses awake. And powerful conversations are invitation to talk, to dialogue with our senses awake. Awake to everything that can emerge moment by moment, or that can emerge in our ordinary lives, or in sometimes extraordinary moments. But we can be with our senses awake. That's the third invitation. Then I want to recall, the first invitation is to be involved by the conversation. The second invitation is to make some pauses. And the third invitation is to be open to aesthetics. But we have two more invitations. The fourth one is that to be open to be touched and to touch the other. This could be in a physical way, but it's not just in a physical way, more in a metaphorical way. To be open to transform the other and to be transformed by he or by she. Powerful conversations are transformative conversations. We could be different person after those kind of conversations. We can feel different, we can see the world in a different way, we can see ourselves in a different way as well. I just remember one thing about the previous one, the aesthetic, because I discovered that here in India, the Indian cuisine have something in common than the Mexican cuisine, and that is we use a lot of chili for a lot of things, right? But in a lot of countries, they don't use chili. They don't like it at all. My wife is from Colombia, and they don't use chili at all. And for us, it's like everything we need to put some chili. Everything, in everything, even in the candies for children. We put chili in candies, in fruit. For me, it's great, an apple with chili, or a mango with chili. It's great, mango with chili, or cucumber and carrots and jicama with chili is great. But it's very weird because when we eat something with chili, we can feel our mouth in fire. It's weird because it actually feels like our mouth is in fire. But it's like this. I have a cucumber with chili. And and we keep it and we want more and more and more. It's something weird, but it happens as well in powerful conversations. Sometimes powerful conversation can feel very hurtful, very emotional, and sometimes we touch sadness. For instance, in a powerful conversation we can cry, but after that we can say, oh, that was a very good crying. When do we do it again? Can we do it soon again? Because even that it was a tough moment, even that it was a very difficult moment for us, we know very in our intimate soul, we know that it's good for us and we want more. Like with chili, we want more, even that we feel our mouth in fire. But let me continue. The fifth invitation. We have 5 invitations as well. The 5th one is to question certainties. Powerful conversations and existential phenomenological practices, whatever you name it, are invitations to question certainties. And if we question our certainties, we are in a position to accept the flow of instability of our existence, the movement, the always changing world that we live in. We are in a position that are more able to accept this instability. But this is not easily do and easily achievable, yes, because we are in a world that tell us every time, especially the Western culture, the American way of life, they teach us that we need everything with stability. We need everything stable. We need everything to be very secure. And this is an invitation to be open to instability. Then is something is very difficult. But this is a very special invitation from powerful conversations. How do we do that? Well, we add a question mark after every certainty. For instance, if someone tells me, I am very sad, I can say to him or to her, how is your sadness? How is to be sad? In this way, I add a question mark to his certainty. Then, if we add a question mark to our certainties, we open new windows. We open new doors to our reflection, to our way of thinking about our own lives. Accepting that every certainty responds to certain context give us the opportunity to know that if context change, and that usually happens, if context change, then the certainty becomes uncertainty. And those 5 invitations, I'm going to recall it. The first one is to be involved by the conversation. The second one is to make some pauses. The third one is to be open to aesthetics. The fourth one is to be open to touch and to be touched. And the fifth one is to question uncertainty and accept the flow and instability of existence. These 5 invitations are invitations from the existential phenomenological worldview. Actually, that is all what it's meaning about existential phenomenological worldview. It's an invitation. An invitation, of course, that we use a lot in therapy is one of the main contexts, or the third context that I told you before, is a context very, what is very normal to do it. You know? We can learn about in therapy. We can learn a lot if we use these kind of conversations. But actually, it's not just for therapy. There are more contexts where we can use it, because they are invitations for our lives. They are invitations for our relationships with the world, with others, with ourselves. Then, this invitation is an invitation to every one of us, from our childhood to our old years, you know, because we can do it in a different relationships, in any relationship. And we are made of relationships. Then, as you can see, these aspects can add some value to every conversation, to every relationship, not just to professional ones, but for every kind of relationship, to any conversation in different contexts. That's why existential phenomenological worldview can be valuable for everyone, for every person, and not just for professionals. We are going to talk with deeper focus about all these topics in the workshop we are going to have the next 3 days. But now we have maybe some minutes more to talk a little bit more about this. To maybe you have any questions or comments or just reactions that you can share here with us, because this is something that we can share, that we can hold together, that we can learn together, because they are a lot more to know, a lot more to share, and a lot more to be invited to share with each other. Then that's the main thing that I want to share with you today. But please, if you have any questions or comments, we have some minutes for that. Please.
How is it related to existentialism and phenomenology from the philosophical point of view, and how did this system come into being? Is there some background?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, all these topics that we are talking about are present in the existential philosophers from the 19th century and the first part of the 20th century and the second part of the 20th century. All these aspects are present in them. But sometimes have you ever tried to read the existential philosophers? Sometimes they are very, very dark, very, very tough to read. But all of them talk about this. All of them. These topics are based on those frameworks, on those thoughts from Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, Husserl's in phenomenology's movement, Heidegger, Jean-Paul Sartre, Albert Camus, and other thinkers that give us those invitations. These invitations that I talk about are present in these and in all these thinkers. But now we have the experience and a different age, a different context that can help us
to understand them in a better way. I think in a better way, because now we can take all their knowledge and try to apply it and not just to think it. We now can apply in our ordinary lives. But thank you, yes, thank you for the question, because maybe I don't name during my presentation all those things of the philosophers, but they are always present in my mind. You know? All of them talk about these invitations.
Someone surely must have drawn out to make it into a system that you presented, the context and the invitations and those 3 and 5 and 5. Someone must have done.
Yes, this system that I told you, they are not. This is not present in them. Yes, that's true. The existentialist nowadays, that they are living this moment, they try to systematize all this knowledge in ways that are more easy to know, to learn, and to practice. Because at the beginning, it's very in the previous years, that's the difficulties, to how to apply it, how to live it. Well, now we are developing systems to help us with these situations. Yes, thank you.
I just love the bit about instability, the seeking, the thing, and to connect with the concept of being existential. To be quite honest, I've forgotten. That's what I've been doing for all my life, and really that reaction from others who are not, the relationship with others, with the world, with other personal contacts, of people who are not in that frame of mind, can never understand, that. So the powerful conversation very often has to be silence, stillness. It's all the concepts you're talking about. It's something that I learned very, very recently with my family, that and it's something I've forgotten because I've been living away from India, but I've just come back over the last few years. And I kind of remember that's how I cope with it. The actual powerful conversation is silence.
Yeah. I can bet that all of us here can recognize all these themes, all these topics as ours, as mine. We can recognize it because they are aspects of human beings, but aspects that very common are silent. Aspects that the culture, especially the Western culture, especially the American way of life, teach us to keep calm, keep quiet, not to make some movement, because so it's very common that make us feel anxious, But Kierkegaard says he has one book. The name of the book is The Concept of Anxiety, and in this book, Kierkegaard has a quote, a phrase, a lovely one. He says something like, "In actual world, we are trying to learn how to overcome anxiety. And we tried this for centuries, try to learn how to overcome anxiety. But we never learn because it's impossible. What we need to learn is how to be anxious, how to hold on anxiety and learn from that and go through anxiety, not to avoid them, not try to deny it, but accept it and go through it and learn from it." And this is very
like a very important thing in the existential thinking, that we need to learn, we can learn about instability, we can learn about uncertainty, we can learn about all those things that usually scare us, but we can learn about it because they are life as well. They are part of humanity. They are part of us. And I know all of us can know it. Then existential thinkers doesn't tell us something new. They just remind us what we already knew. Yes, thank you.
Just a comment. I mean, I see some parallels between what you're talking about is existentialist phenomenological worldview, and also like some thinkers in India, like say Jiddu Krishnamurti. I don't know if you've heard about them, and a few others who follow, maybe we could say self-inquiry, where maybe it doesn't have such a step-by-step methodology of approaching.
Yeah.
But it's the same process of ultimately watching oneself and learning from your mirror or your reflection, which is in some sense in everything, in relationship with the world, with people, or in the conversation that you have, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I find that
very similar.
very similar.
Yeah, I agree. I read maybe a couple of books from Krishnamurti and saw a couple of movies when he talked with David Bohm and a psychiatrist, you know, and I listened to him and read his books and says, oh, this looks like existentialism. Yes, actually it's very, very similar. And maybe you know more about this, because I'm not an expert in the Krishnamurti way of thinking, but maybe one difference is in the existential way of thinking. We believe that this tension that human beings feel from the stability, the instability, and the searching for stability is a lovely part of our humanity. It's not something that we try to overcome. Yes, but in some philosophers, in some philosophies, in some Eastern philosophies, they try to teach us how to overcome that. You know, maybe that is a difference, because in the existential way of thinking, this tension is lovely. You know, this tension is humanity. This tension can be very, very joyful, very, very wonderful. You know, but we need to know how to go through it. Yeah. Do you agree?
I would say that Krishnamurti himself, maybe from my understanding, these instabilities and I would say the uncertainties are like he always says that, similar to what you were saying, is that, you know, when you're happy you never put the brakes on.
Yeah.
But suddenly when you're sad you wanted to stop now. But actually what you're doing is making a wall. And you're not able to see what the sadness is, but you're just resisting. And in a sense, you just let it be. Actually, if you can just let it be, it unravels itself, and one moment passes into the next and it changes.
Yeah.
So something like that. But I would say that it's interpreted and practiced. There's no, like, the way to do or how to do is not that easy. Because if you ask somebody, just watch it. Like, how do you watch it? Like, where do you start? And, you know, and ultimately, then it's just you and your mind or something. But I feel like there's no step-by-step, maybe, to guide you into or something like that. But so I feel like it can become sometimes also repression. Instead of watching it, you're trying to become maybe stronger or something. I think there can be that.
You know what? Yes, of course. Wisdom is wisdom, you know. And sometimes different points of view are like fingers who are pointed to the moon or to some like this. We have a finger to point it to this, and sometimes we have another finger to point it this way, another one to point it this way, and another one to point it this way. If we don't see this, could seems that these 2 points are in some way opposite, you know, in some way are against each other. But if we look more, we can see both are pointed to the same issue. Both are pointed to the same aspect of life. Then sometimes it's in this way, you know, it's just a different way of pointing the same thing. Yeah.
Practical question. So you established that one of the ways of having a deep conversation is silence. What would be another non-silent way of beginning a conversation in the phenomenon?
No silent way.
Sorry?
Let me see if I understand. When we have a conversation, I need to know more about you, and I need to say more to you about me. And in this way, we are going to be not silent, but maybe we need a moment of silence. We need a moment to be more, to have more space for reflect or to feel or to be aware of our experiences and all that stuff, okay? But sometimes we need to start from a silence moment because this world is very noisy. It's very, very noisy. That's why the meditation practice are growing all around the world because we recognize the need for silence, you know? But it's different, the need for silence, that the silence that is imposed by others. Then I think your question, if I understand quite well, is like how can we can hold silence without be silent? Is that okay? No?
Yeah.
Correct me, please.
Yeah, I think you've got that right, yeah. So
Yeah.
you start with silence, and then what's the next step after that silence has transpired? Then what? In terms of process.
Then what we need to share meanings and to explore your meanings and mine. To explore how my meanings affects you and how your meanings affects me. And in this way, we create new meanings. You know, there's now I have these names in my head. There's a French philosopher called Paul Ricard. Did I pronounce it well? Ricard? Yeah, not Descartes. Paul Ricard. Ricard? That's okay. Yeah. Well, he said that if you have an orange and a mango, and after putting together, you still have an orange and a mango, it's boring. But if you have an orange and a mango, and you mix it, and you have a smoothie, orange mango smoothie, could be a great, great taste. But you need to mix it. And that's what I mean. You know, I want, in a powerful conversation, I want to be affected by your meanings, and I want to affect you by my meanings, and to be aware, to be open to know those new meanings that we build together. Because this is the smoothie.
that we can enjoy together. Did I answer you? Yeah.
May I add to that?
Yes, please.
Something? Active listening, like what we're doing. We need time. So for the engagement, for the power to actually connect, giving each other space rather than interrupting. I found that was something that helped me that power.
And you know, active listening, and I found active listening is better if I am able to open my heart to be changed by the other. Because if I feel like I'm going to be the same, it's like I close my heart and active listening doesn't work, doesn't happen. I need to open it, to open my own heart to be changed by the other. This is the invitation to be touched and touch the other.
It's very, very scary to do that though. And
Yes, it's very scary.
And being a therapist myself, most of my clients come to me have one thing in common, which is fear. And when you talk about uncertainty, the one thing, the ironic thing is that certainty, many people think certainty brings safety.